From struggling to even make weight for her fights, to shocking the world with her performance against Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso has her eyes firmly set on her next fight. And she just wants some more action against the Bullet. She even has a date and a venue in mind, too. Talk about being decisive. The newly crowned queen of the women's flyweight said that she'd love a rematch against Val.
For sure, it's horrible to get injured. It's horrible to not be able to use your body as much as you want. It's also horrible to not be able to train.
She acknowledges the Russians' competitive side, so it makes perfect sense for them to fight again. The former champ wasted no time in asking for a rerun. In fact, she staked her claim to it right after the fight when Joe Rogan was interviewing her. And that's the least she deserves. I mean, Val had held the title for almost 5 years, and she's defended it successfully 7 times. Tell me that isn't impressive. So it's a complete no-brainer for the UFC to give her another chance. And it seems that Alexa is on board with the idea as well. She's already thinking up a strategy for her next fight. While talking to Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, the Mexican asked him to imagine the next fight. She was wondering what Val's going to do in the octagon this time and how she can counter it. It's going to be like a chess match, according to Grasso. But she also admitted that there are a lot of areas that she needs to improve upon. From their fight at UFC 285, it was clear that Shevchenko was the more dominant fighter. And even though Alexa managed to get the better of her, she knows that she can't afford to get complacent.
Well, no, practically my life is the same. I just train harder, I just eat better, and I'm more motivated than ever before.
I mean, Val was ahead on the judges' scorecards, and it looked as if she would have defended her title yet again if it wasn't for a small miscalculation by the Bullet, or rather the perfectly timed counter by Grasso. It was one of Val's signature spinning attacks that would spell her demise. She threw a spinning back kick, as she usually does, and in doing so, she exposed her back, and at that moment, Alexa jumped on her and took her back in an instant, and choked her out until the Russian tapped out.
Well, this is a very big opportunity. I'm super thankful with the UFC for giving me these opportunities. They notice how hard I work, and well, that's why I'm giving these big challenges for me.
This was truly shocking to every single person watching the fight, because never in all her years anyone had seen Val in such a compromising situation. And the best part is that it wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing either. You see, guys, later Grasso explained she'd been practicing that particular move for months. That's right, for months. And she got it right when it mattered the most. You just got to give it to her and her coaches, because that strategy worked out brilliantly for her. She became the first female Mexican champion in UFC's history, but not everyone was sold on that win, as you can expect.
Well, it's something that happened. I have to be professional in every area. So if the judges decided that it wasn't my opportunity, it's okay. I know that I did my best. I show it that I'm a better athlete in every area. My skills in jiu-jitsu are getting better. My grappling is getting better. So that's the most important thing for me now.
Some fans were very dismissive and called it more of a fluke than strategy. You guys know how people can be, but that's what MMA is all about. One small misstep and things can change for the worse. Alexa's no fool, and she's definitely no coward. She knows what people are saying about her, so she just wants to cement herself as the champion by defeating the Russian assassin once again. Grasso is sure of her victory. She knows it wasn't a fluke, but the best way to silence her doubters is to do it all over again, just like Leon Edwards did with Kamaru Usman recently. The thing is, no one can stay at the top forever. Just like Khabib Nurmagomedov used to say, champions get old too. They lose their edge. And it's only a matter of time before a young challenger steps up to take the throne. But most fans are in love with older champs. They've seen them dominate the sport for so long. You see where I'm going with this. I don't think Val is going to reclaim her title, but there's no harm in trying. She has to be even warier now. Grasso will have the home soil advantage. Yep, you heard it right. The Mexican wants the rematch to be held in her backyard. She says she wants to fight in Guadalajara, just like Canelo Alvarez. But she won't say no to Mexico City either. That's not all, though. Grasso even has a date in mind. She wants to fight on September 16th, which also happens to be the Mexican Independence Day. And the good news is, it'll fall on a Saturday this year. So it ticks all the boxes for UFC to return for their first Mexican pay-per-view since 2015. If for some reason that doesn't happen, then she still wants to fight before the end of the year.
I had to remind myself to be positive, to be active, to do what I can, and just keep in the journey. I have to do this because I'm not here just to be here. I want to do the best of the way I can. So
2 fights a year is what she's aiming for, and it looks like the rematch against Val is the way forward. But the Bullet doesn't seem too eager right now. She too was on the show with Ariel Helwani and was asked how she felt fighting in front of a Mexican crowd. She said that she'd like nothing more than to silence Grasso's supporters in her own country, but the UFC needs to make sure that the judges and the referees aren't biased. I have no idea what she's talking about. Maybe she's getting cold feet? Not too long ago, Islam Makhachev scored a unanimous win over Alexander Volkanovski in Australia. Now, I'm not saying that the judges are always perfect, but accusing them of being biased is just too much. I mean, how many decisions has Val secured? Just look at her fight against Taylor Santos. Shevchenko looked really shaky in that fight, and the judges could have gone either way with their decision. But that's not all, because Val is accusing the referee Jason Herzog as well. She feels that he sabotaged her in both her last matches. According to the Russian, she had Grasso on her back and was landing big shots on her when the ref decided to stand them both up. I don't know, guys, looks like a lot of excuses if you ask me, and it definitely doesn't look good coming from a fighter like Shevchenko. So what happens if she decides to duck this fight? I don't think she's going to do that. She's probably just making excuses for her recent shaky performances, but let's just assume that she gets cold feet.
No, I had to stop my school. It's really difficult for me because I love both things. But now that I'm young and that I have energy in all my body, I would like to fight now.
Well, then Grasso doesn't really have a lot of options left, because no one has really called her out yet, except for Macy Barber, who wants to avenge her previous loss at UFC 258 to the new queen of the flyweights. She recently won a close split decision against Andrea Lee at UFC on ESPN 43, and during the post-fight press conference, she said that she's working toward her rematch against Grasso. Barber said that she's ready for the title fight if the UFC wants to give it to her, and even if they don't, then she's still going to wreck anyone they put in her way. She did praise Alexa for being an amazing athlete, but she still thinks that she's got what it takes to defeat her. But Macy is the number 10 ranked contender in the division right now, so the chances of her getting a title shot are non-existent. There are plenty of contenders in the division though: Manon Fior, Taylor Santos, and Erin Blanchfield, just to name a few. I'm sure Uncle Dana will work his magic and make an awesome fight no matter what. He has an instinct for this thing. That's why he's the boss. I mean, no one thought that Alexa Grasso was anything more than a feeder fish for the Bullet, but she proved the world wrong and secured that title.
I want to be a black belt too, so I've been improving my jiu-jitsu skills, my wrestling skills, of course my striking. It's something I feel very comfortable, but like I said, I've heard that if you want to be successful, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, so that's what I've been doing all this time, all the time training and training and training.
She's got a lot of that Mexican fighting spirit in her, and I'm sure she's going to reign for a long time. That's all been about Grasso's next potential opponents.